Hello, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. I'm so excited because today I get to have a very insightful conversation with Angelo. Angelo has written a book named You're Making It Too Hard. The timing of this episode could not have been better for me because I found myself in such turmoil as we were recording this episode, and that kind of shines through to some extent in the episode. However, I don't really know what my life circumstances are going to be whenever I am recording these episodes, and that's kind of the point. I don't want everything to be perfect and I don't want everything to be polished, but I really wanted to have this conversation because what prompted me to have this conversation to begin with was when I learned that Angelo lost his wife years ago. And for someone who's never experienced anything like that, but knows that that is a true part of life, unfortunately, I do want to hear what it takes for someone to move on after such terrible loss. How do you find happiness again? How do you go about your life knowing that that part of you is never coming back? Some of you might be going through something similar or grieving your own loss. And if you can find some solace in knowing that there are other people out there who went through the same in one way or another, who also have found ways to be happy again and to find new love and to find reasons to enjoy life, then maybe this episode is for you. Welcome to Becoming Secure with Mike's Mindset. I'm actually really excited that I got to talk to you because the book that you have written, You're Making This Way Too Hard, is really something that I would love to hear more about, simply because I am in this chapter of my life right now where I'm definitely overthinking absolutely everything, and I just cannot find myself to like this easy, peaceful place, which is probably coming from a combination of like having to do this big move and having to put this chapter behind me. But before we get into that, what can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what my listeners needs to understand about you?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm a consulting psychologist in Nashville, Tennessee. Got my PhD from the University of Georgia. I was a college professor for 4 years, um, and left academia to join a consulting firm in 1980. And then in 1982, I had an opportunity to set up my own consulting practice here in Nashville. The name of my practice is The Company Psychologist, and I help companies hire the right people for their culture. I coach leaders and aspiring leaders. I work on team building, professional development. And over the last couple of years, I've also been coaching people on how to live their best life and make things a little easier on themselves.
Yeah, I want to hear everything about that. That's for sure.
Sure. Well, let's start with my book. Wrote a book a couple of years ago. It's called You're Making This Way Too Hard. Find Your Easy Way to Enjoy Life. And the reason I wrote the book is because in my consulting and coaching practice, I noticed that there were so many people who had what society considers to be success,
Mhm.
at least the trappings of success, uh, but they just weren't enjoying their life as much as, well, frankly, as much as I thought they should. I mean, we were put on this planet to enjoy life, I believe.
Right.
And um, for so many people, it's a struggle. And I recognize that there are a lot of situations where people are put in a position of struggle.
Hmm.
But I think in many cases, we put ourselves in those positions unnecessarily.
Right. Can you tell me about an example where you've done this in your own life?
Oh gosh. Well, for let me think of a good example of that. Okay, where I've made it easier or more difficult. I can give you a
More
great
difficult.
example where I made it more difficult. Well, earlier in my uh, personal life and in my professional career, um, I had this feeling that I had to be all things to all people. I had to be perfect. I had to
Mm.
dress perfect. I had to be everything. My behavior had to be perfect, and it wasn't. And I wasn't being true to myself. And it finally got to the point where I recognized that I was heading down a path that was going to be self-destructive and probably destructive for the people around me. And unfortunately, it led to a divorce. But it also led to kind of me recalibrating my life and reassessing. I did a lot of soul searching. I realized that I wasn't the person that I wanted to be, but I also realized I was capable of becoming the person that I wanted to be. So the next part of my journey was to reinvent myself. And I think people do reinvent themselves every 7 to 10 years, whether they realize they're doing it or not.
I agree on
You're
that.
not right. You're not the same person you were 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago.
Thank
And
goodness. I
you
feel
know
like.
that reinvention can either take you down a really good, positive, life affirming path, or it can take you
Mhm.
down a negative, self-destructive path.
Yeah,
But so really it kind of depends on you. And the message that I'm trying to convey in my book and in my coaching and in the course that I developed is that you can find an easier way to enjoy life. It's available to everybody, and you don't have to take huge dramatic steps to make that happen. You can just do some little things every day
yeah.
to start making that happen.
So, okay, so you say that you, because there was this cues, right, where you're noticing that you're going on this destructive path. And I think that a lot of us can probably recognize what that is, but at the same time, like that will look different to everyone. So, like, what were the cues within you that made you realize that this was a destructive path, and how could you then know how to reinvent yourself?
Okay. Well, one of the things I noticed is that I never seemed to feel comfortable in the places where I should feel the most comfortable. At home, for example. I felt
Mm.
like I was, I had wife was a nice lady, and she just wasn't the right nice lady for me. Had a couple kids, love my kids. I'm still very close to my kids. But when I was at home, I just found myself edgy and really not. I don't want to say I didn't want to be there, but in a sense, I didn't want to be there, and I didn't know why I didn't want to be there.
Mm.
Um, and it was coming from inside. I knew that, and I realized, if you can't be comfortable in your own home, something's wrong.
Right.
Um, so that's when I kind of started on my soul search, and I did a little self diagnosis as a as a psychologist. And so, okay, well, given that this is the way it is, what can I do to change it?
Right. Yeah.
And some of the changes were big. For example, like I said, we got a divorce,
Mhm.
um, and it was just, it's the classic case that we'd grown apart. Our values systems had kind of diverged, and it's it, I wasn't the same person I was when I was 22, and this was when I was 42.
Mm.
So it kind of was time for a change, and uh, it's really since then the trajectory of my life has been a lot more positive, a lot more
Mhm.
fulfilling for me and for the people around me. Because if you're not happy with yourself and you're not comfortable with yourself, nobody's going to be comfortable around you. It's going to be, it has a, it permeates through all of your relationships. It permeates through your work. And that's why I think it's so important for people to really learn to love themselves, take care of themselves, and again, find the joy in life because it's out there
Mhm.
if you know how to find it and know it when you see it.
Yeah. No, I mean you're certainly preaching to the choir, and it's quite interesting because what you're mentioning is essentially what I am probably feeling right now. Because when you're in this, well, I say you, but I mean it's quite literally myself talking about myself here. But it's um in this limbo stage where I'm kind of like in between two worlds. I have this San Francisco life behind me, but I know that I have like this Norway life that I'm headed into. And in this in between state, I just don't feel like myself. I don't feel like I'm showing up like myself. I feel like a nerve wreck most of the time. It's like, yeah, it's just so clear to me that this transition is definitely taking its toll on me, and it has a hold on me that I'm like struggling to navigate in this particular season of my life. But at the same time, I'm trying to allow myself to be like
well, this is just what's happening right now, and you just kind of have to get through it. There's not so many ways around it. There's just, yeah, that's what was, and now this is what's happening, and it's I'm trying the best of my ability to enjoy the present, but I'm having a really hard time with it. So I can understand what it is that you're talking about for sure.
Well, I think, with where you're in a state where you're saying goodbye, but you're saying hello to something else at the same time. And I
Hmm.
think if you get the goodbye out of the way as soon as possible and start focusing more on the hello, what's coming rather than what's been, uh, I think that's going to help you to find that clarity and to find that reduce some of that stress because you are right in it. You're in a transition. People going through transitions all the time. You get a new job, you move to a new city, you get married, you get divorced, you have children, you have develop new friendships, and there are all kinds of transitions, and it is difficult to navigate those because they're very emotional state, and you go through a variety of different emotions. I know part of you is going to be sad saying goodbye to your life in San Francisco, but you've got a whole new life ahead of you in Norway.
Yeah.
And if you, if you spend more time focusing on what you have to look forward to rather than the part of your life that you're leaving, then it puts you in a different frame of mind.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, that is helpful. I was on the phone with my mom a little bit earlier, and that is helpful too because she can constantly remind me that there's a bunch of people here also extremely excited to see you. So it's
Sure.
it's nice. I know that I have that too. But yeah, sorry, I digress. I do want to jump into a topic. I'm not sure how comfortable you are talking about it, so please let me know to what
Oh,
extent you are.
I'll talk about anything. What do, what do I have to lose, right?
Well, I mean, that's the attitude that I have too, so I appreciate that. So okay. I talk a lot about love and attachment in my podcast because it's probably the things that matters the most to me. And I also noticed when I was reading through the information about your life that you shared that you had a wife that passed away. And
Yes.
that is, yeah, probably one of my biggest absolute nightmares is to lose someone that I love, especially in a way like that. And
Uh,
it is just extra admirable for me to then know that the same person who lost a love like that has also written written a book about how to make life easier. And I really want to hear your opinion on that because I believe that you have been through hell to get to that point. So if you could talk a little bit more around how that season of your life was and how that prompted you into writing that book, I would love to hear that.
oh, sure. Well, of course, Ginger was my second wife. I met her. Actually, I was separated from my first wife, and she was separated from her first husband.
Mm.
And we met, uh, kind of dated casually for a while, and then realized that we kept gravitating toward each other, and ended up dating for 4 years before we got married. She had a 2-year-old son at the time when we met, and by the time we got married, he was 5 or 6, and I raised him just like I raised my other two sons. Uh, people, some people warn me don't get involved with a woman who has a child, but I like kids and I'm good at raising boys. I don't know how I do about raising girls, but I knew I could raise boys because I raised two good ones from my first marriage. So we were a very opposite keep. She was an extrovert. She was bubbly, vivacious, life of the party, and I'm an introvert. My idea of a great party is one I'm not invited to. Uh,
Funny.
so, um, but for whatever reason, I think because we really shared a value system that was consistent. I mean, we both loved children. We loved our friends. We were very caring, concerned about our friends. We enjoyed each other's company. She was really funny. People tell me I'm funny. I don't know. People laugh at me a lot. Maybe that means maybe that means I'm funny. Anyway, we had a terrific marriage, and we got married in '95, and in 2009, she had a seizure, and nobody could figure out why she had a seizure, and she ended up being in a coma for 3 weeks. And when she came out of the coma, she started to get better up to a point, but she never really regained her full functioning, and we couldn't figure out why, because the doctors are going, we don't know why she's not getting any better. So after a couple misdiagnoses, we went to Vanderbilt to a neurologist who specialized in ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease for some people. That's
Mm.
what, it's also called that. And he ran a bunch of tests, and we expected him to say, you don't have ALS. And that's not what he said.
Oh,
So once we got the diagnosis, when you get that diagnosis, that's a death sentence. You just don't know when it's coming.
yeah.
So that was in 2010, really, when we got that diagnosis. And she'd already had it for a while with the misdiagnosis. So, in an interesting way, uh, we got even closer during that period. Um, I took care of her. Um, a little background. My mother was disabled when I was growing up, so I knew what it took to take care of somebody who was not physically as healthy as they could be.
Right.
So for those 2 years, uh, I had something to do from 5:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night. Between taking care of her, I still had my consulting practice. I do like to play golf every once in a while. So my son, her son, and my stepson and I would play golf together and try to live as normal life as possible. And fortunately, she never got to the point where she couldn't speak or was in a wheelchair, couldn't move. She would never got to that point. But what did happen was she got pneumonia. Nobody dies from ALS. They die from complications from
Right.
ALS.
Right.
So she got pneumonia in 2012, and she went in the hospital and she never came out.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's devastating.
Yeah, it was devastating. And it wasn't part of my it wasn't part of my long-term plan, or hers either, for that matter. Well, my son moved back. Her son, my stepson, moved back. He was living in East Tennessee at the time. He moved back home and lived with me for a while. And about 8 or 9 months later, I met my wife now, Rachel. And we've been together since 2013.
Mm.
I was very blessed. Uh, she was actually back in the 90s. He was actually a friend of Ginger, and we all would go out to dinner together. And Rachel moved away from Nashville, and I didn't know she was back in town in Nashville. And we just happened to meet, uh, and we just hit it off. Um, and she's an introvert also, so we spend a lot of time together, a lot of time by ourselves with our doggy. And like I said, she's been a blessing to me. And what was beautiful about that is she knew what I went through.
Right.
She knew Ginger, and she knew what I had gone through. And so there was no hesitation about talking about it, or anything like that. I didn't have
Right.
to. And so we've got a great relationship. Uh, every one of my relationships has been different.
Mhm.
Uh, this one, I'm very blessed to have this one at this stage of my life, the fourth quarter. Um,
The fourth quarter. Why do
yeah,
you say that?
Well, I'm 76, and if I figure if I'm going to be 100, then 1 to 25 is the first quarter, 25 to 50 is the second quarter, right?
Got you. I think I
So,
had you
so,
a little bit like more in the 60s. I think that's
oh,
why I was
God bless
smiling.
you. Thank you so much. That makes my day. Um, now, uh, I'm a healthy 76, which is good. So,
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm really happy to hear that you were able to find love and happiness again after such a tragedy. But I would love to hear. So, how does one even go about that? Because I mean, there's the initial. I mean, it's you're from a different. You're talking about it from a different perspective now because it's after the fact and it's years later. But in the moment
right.
when you were going through it, and what
Oh, at the moment, I was lost. I absolutely, the first thing that I noticed, you know, the day after she passed away is all of a sudden, of course, I had to make arrangements and things like that, but all of a sudden I had all this time on my hands that I hadn't had. 'Cause, I'd been in the hospital with her, and when she was home, I was taking care of her all the time. So all of a sudden, what do I do now? All I had really left was my consulting practice, my kids, uh, and my friends. But I mean, there were big gaps. I mean, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Um, at the time, I didn't think I'd ever get married again because I was in my 60s. Um, but uh, I've always been a forward-looking person. I'm not somebody that look back on the past. Some people carry memories with them from 40, 50, 60 years ago. And, you know, I have some of those memories, but they don't define me, and that I don't think about them that much because I'm always thinking about what's ahead. I have something I wrote in my book is that your past can either be your teacher or your jailer. And
Oh,
you
I like that.
and you've got to choose what it's going to be. So I decided to let past be my teacher and move on from there. Um,
But I
so
mean, in this situation particularly, though, I guess I'm just honing in on the grieving of it all because I mean, how much can that teach you really? Well, I guess it can teach you a lot about yourself, of course, and how to get through it. But that is more
it
of
all
in retrospect, right?
no, it also taught me about other people
Oh,
because
I
I,
see.
okay, I learned that the people who are going to be there for you in your life
Hmm.
are just going to show up. You don't have to ask them. You don't have to let them know that you're hurting. They're just going to know you're hurting, and they're going to show up for you, whether you want them or not. They're going to call you up and say, let's go out to dinner, or let's go play golf, or let's do, the people who you're never going to hear from
Hmm.
are the people who say, just let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
Right.
Right? You hear that from people all the time. Just let me know. Give me a call. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
Hmm.
Those people are, they're going to be too busy for you.
Hmm.
Not that it's their fault, but um, so I really learned who my true friends were and who my fair weather friends were. And it also taught me how to be a better friend to people when they're going through some
Right.
difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tried to do the same thing. There was one of my good golf buddies, a few weeks after Ginger died, invited me to a concert. He bought an extra ticket to a concert. He and his wife took me to a concert, which I thought was so wonderful. Sadly, a few years later, his wife, who was much younger than he, uh, passed away from cancer. So I helped him to get through. I was the person who showed up, invited him to things because I knew exactly what he went through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It sounds like what you're experiencing is that in order to get through the grief, it's the connections in your life that is going to help you get there.
Yes.
That's the main part of it. What are some other things that you felt? Well, like imagine someone who's in a similar situation right now. How would you help them put one foot in front of the other?
Well, I would just let them know that they have a choice now of how they want to script the rest of their life. What do they want the rest of their life to look like? And sometimes it's what do you want tomorrow to look like? And in my book, I really emphasize doing something nice for yourself every day.
Oh, that's so nice. I like that. I'm gonna write that
Uh,
on a post-it note and put it on my wall.
yeah, do just do. It could be going for a walk. It could be, just taking a cup of coffee outside and listening to the birds and watching the sunrise. It could be anything. Something simple, but just do something nice for yourself every day.
Yeah, it's funny that you should say that. Just before we had this call, like I'm telling you, I'm not really feeling fully myself these days. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for a walk. It's a sunny day in San Francisco. I haven't just brought my coffee mug outside with me. I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk, just cry it out a little bit, just get a little bit out of your system, and it helps. It definitely does help. I'm
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing your grieving and me leaving San Francisco
Oh
to
no,
at
no,
the
no,
same,
no,
but
no.
just
Listen. It's okay. Um,
yeah, just wanted to
but
emphasize that.
that's it. That's important for everybody. I think that's a critical component of making your life easier is to find joy in simple things.
Right.
You know, I'm, I'll give you a really stupid example. 2 days ago, I'm driving. I leave my house at about 6:30 in the morning. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to take my morning walk. And there was a rainbow over the house at the end of the street. So stopped my car, got out of the car, took a picture of it because you don't see a rainbow every day.
You
And
do?
it's not like I've never seen a rainbow before,
Right.
but it just hit me as something that was really kind of cool at 6:30 in the morning, just at sunrise. There wasn't even any rain around. So that's finding joy in a very simple thing.
I love that. I'm exactly the same. I have a few friends around here too where I don't know if you use Instagram at all, but on
Yeah,
Instagram you can post like these stories and stuff, and we've kind of had this as a group of us that has this thing where we go on these intentional walks where we're not doing this together, we're doing this separately, but we're observing each other kind of in this. Well, we'll go on these attention walks and just take photos of all the little details that we notice on our path because it's all a part of the big beautiful creation of God, right? So at least that's my view, and that's where I'm
mine
coming
too.
from. Yeah, so I do love to go on these walks just because it simply helps me to put things in perspective. I know that whenever I feel like I can easily lock myself in and make it incredibly big in my mind, and therefore I feel so emotional. But I know that the moment I get out and I just start to notice the things around me, notice the changing colors, all the different architecture around the people, what are they going through? It's like you really understand that you can put everything into perspective when you just get outwards and look around. And I found that to be an incredible helpful tool to distance myself from my own kind of misery where I am probably milking it a little bit more than I need to. So I think
Well,
that it's beautiful whenever I go on Instagram and I see some of my friends that's posted some of these stories, and I know that okay, they've been on this attention walk, and I admire it, and I love that they post these photos, and it's beautiful. So I get to see all of these little beautiful corners of the world because of that, because other people do it as well. So that's why I like to be intentional about it as well. Um, but yeah, I don't really know where I was going with this at this point. I just wanted to share, I think.
that's okay. You get- I think we were talking about finding joy in the simple things. And one of the other
Exactly.
one of the other things I think that's really important that a lot of people don't do is say nice things about yourself to yourself.
Mhm.
It's okay to compliment yourself. All of us have really good qualities,
Mhm.
and it's okay to say, you did good there. Good job. you're a nice person, or you did this well, or whatever the compliment might be, but go ahead and say nice things about yourself, because your brain will rewire itself. If you're constantly saying negative things about yourself, it's going to rewire itself for the negative. If
Right.
you say positive things about yourself, it's going to rewire itself to the positive. And whatever you're going through, if you're looking at it through a more positive lens, you're more likely to get through it better.
Right.
I mean, everybody goes through terrible situations. I went through mine. Uh, People are going through this every day, but the attitude with that you approach it with goes a long way in determining how you're going to come out the other side.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, if you have a woe is me, nothing ever goes my way, everybody's against me. If you have that kind of an attitude, then you've given up control of your life to somebody else
Right.
or to circumstances. And I really believe one of the best things anybody can do is look at themselves and say, now, what can I control here? What control do I have over this situation? Take as much control as you possibly can over yourself and over your situation, because so many things happen that are out of your control.
Hmm.
So the things that you can control, you need to control the hell out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. I do wonder, because you've been doing this for 40 years, and I do wonder, what is the difference between those who are successful and those who aren't? Is that aligned with what you're saying now? It's like that discrepancy between whether or not you believe in yourself or not?
The biggest difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people will do the unpleasant but necessary things that unsuccessful people won't do. Let's say you're in college,
Mhm.
okay? And you're determined to get really good grades in college. And that would be one of the definitions of success for you.
Mhm.
Well, and I can speak to this a little bit because I was in a fraternity in college in the 60s. And if anybody's seen the movie Animal House, that was my fraternity, um, basically. So there's always, when you're in college, there's always somebody who wants to go do something that doesn't involve studying or preparing for a test or writing a paper or whatever you need to do to get good grades in that class. Okay. So the people who are successful are more likely to say, can't do it tonight, got to write this paper. Unpleasant. It's much more fun to go out drinking with your buddies, but necessary if you want to achieve the outcome you want to achieve.
Mm.
Most of I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and several business owners, and you don't know how many have put a second mortgage on their house to start a business. I mean, that's stressful. That could be, your family could end up in not too good a shape financially, but it's something they believed in. They're willing to work 60, 80 hours a week. They're willing to get advice from people who've been through what they want to go through. They'll do what it takes to achieve the kind of success that they want. The second characteristic, besides doing the unpleasant but necessary things, is they just don't quit.
Mhm.
They're persistent. They keep at it.
Yeah.
There's an old saying, you know why the Indian rain dance worked?
So,
Because they kept dancing till it rained.
oh, yeah. Go when you don't stop. Yeah, like that. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why I get like, there's this little part of me when you're describing this college student where I'm like, oh, wow, that was 100% me. I was that person who did not want to sit down and study whatsoever. I just
Right.
wanted to go out and have fun. And I would be so easily distracted. It was ridiculous. And I've definitely done that to myself in many ways. Because even when I was in school, like I grew up in Norway where education is free.
Right.
I didn't understand the value of the education that I was getting at the time because it was just something you more or less took for granted. It was just the path that everyone's going. You know what I mean? I didn't
Yep.
necessarily see the big picture. It wasn't until later in life, right? It's the never quitting part because even though I didn't get good grades in school because I didn't understand the value of why I had to. I was
Right.
way more focused on the connections, which
Yep.
ironically I barely even have anymore. But that being said, I had to at some point do because I still had that drive. I knew I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to do better. And I definitely knew I wasn't going to settle because I had seen what it looked like when people were not happy with their work. And I definitely did not want to go down that path. And that's when I had to just like scramble and use all of my money to actually pay to get the grades fixed and everything. So I actually had to go down this whole path of being in Norway and actually paying for extra school just to fix my grades so I could get into the college that I wanted to. And quite ironically, I even finished my master's degree before my bachelor's degree because I had one course that I could just never finish. I kept failing this one test and I just could not get my diplomas. So it was like I kind of got my bachelor's and master's diploma at the same time because I kind of had to just do it simultaneously. So I've made all of these silly choices, although I had all of the resources there. I could have just done the right thing the first time. But I ended up like having to go this roundabout hard way. And I think I've done that consistently throughout my life. I just make it so hard. I just do the route
Right.
that is the absolute most challenging because somehow I think I'll be better for it. I don't know why. I think it's a hustle. I think I'm grinding. I think I'm like becoming better. But somehow I'm just wasting time. I don't know. Maybe it's a narrative that I need to control, or maybe I'm just not thinking too clearly about it right now. But it's definitely interesting what you're saying. I think the bottom line is I won't quit, but I won't get there the easiest path either.
Oh, that's there's a lot of sayings that people have come up with over the years. One of my favorite ones is that, experience is a great teacher, except that it gives the test first and the lesson later.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. And the other one of my favorites is that good judgment comes from experience, and most of that experience comes from bad judgment. So you really have to figure out what doesn't work for you sometimes before you figure out what does work for you.
Right. Yeah, thank you
But
for
the
saying
only
that.
way to do but the only way to do that to be doing something, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I really believe that you've got to keep moving. You got to take action. You got to do something. You got to make decisions. You got to take risks. You got to make choices. Because if you not to decide is to decide. If you don't make a decision about something, somebody else or something else is going to make that decision for you. The
Mm.
decision's going to be made, and you've got to decide whether you're the one making the decision or somebody else is going to make it for you. So
Yeah.
you've got to be not only persistent, but you got to be smart in how you're being persistent.
Right. And also just setting a clear goal because it sounds like you set a
Right.
clear goal and that goal
Oh
was,
yeah.
there was no doubt what that goal was and you eliminated all the distractions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's where I fail. I have so many goals, but I am not eliminating the distractions.
Well, you're young too, and you got the whole world's in front of you. You're literally moving to another continent. Um, so you'll figure it out.
Not worried about that at all, fortunately.
No,
And also as we're having this conversation too, like I know that I'm finding myself in a place where things just aren't as steady and normal as they typically are. So if we've had this conversation 2 months ago, I might have shown up completely differently with a whole other
right,
kind of agenda or even like things on my heart. I think that's kind of the beauty of all of these conversations that I'm having too, is that I really don't know what I'm going through at the time when I'm having these conversations, which is also true for whoever I'm talking to. And I don't really know in what direction the conversation is headed because I always just want to let it flow naturally based on where I'm at the time.
right. And two
Yeah.
months from now, we'd have a totally different conversation again.
100%. Honestly, I kind of want to now just to compare the two situations because by
Well,
then I'm
sure.
like
Let's
settled in.
let's do it. Let's do another one when you're settled in Norway.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But until then, is there anything that we haven't talked about already that you would love to address before we wrap up this episode?
Um, no, if I could let people know how to get in touch with me, that'd be good.
Please do.
Um, the best way to get in touch with me is to go to my website, which is www.angelovalenti.com. Real easy. My email's angelo@angelovalenti.com. My calendar link, if you want to book a discovery call, is www.reachangelo.com. I'm trying to make it as easy on people as possible. You can buy my book. It's right here. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it off my website. There's an Audible version if you can stand the sound of my voice, you can listen to it.
Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I really am so grateful that I got to talk to you. And I'm very much looking forward to talking to you a few months from now when my circumstances are a little bit different as well. And maybe I'll be able to show up in a different way.
Me too. This was so much fun. Best of luck to you and safe travels in your move.
If you want to come share your version of how your attachment style manifested itself in your love life, please email me on maxmindset@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you.